What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran, and I like to help people using a spiritual perspective. Today, guys, I wanted to talk about something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and something that I definitely have struggled with in my life, and that is escapism. Okay, so I want to talk about really what escapism is, and how to sort of heal it and transmute that into essentially the opposite of escapism, which is to me something along the lines of just feeling at peace with the way things are. So really the opposite of escapism might even be acceptance. Okay, so we're going to talk about that, get into that a little bit, but first let's just get into the idea of escapism in the first place, and I'll use my own life as an example of escapism, okay, because I'm a classic escapist. All right, so escapism in my life, very quickly, was centered around removing myself from pain. Okay, so escapism fundamentally is always trying to go down a different avenue, a different path than what you're currently experiencing. That's what escapism is. It is escaping something in favor of another thing. Okay, and I did this through food since I was young. I think food is an easy one for a lot of people, especially since it's so ingrained in culture. People don't even realize that they're escaping with food half the time. Um, and then when I got older, into my early 20s, never really got into alcohol, but 21, everybody kind of drinks, I think, so, but I wouldn't really consider myself an escapist with alcohol. But certainly for like a year, I was doing cocaine, Xanax, others, I don't know what all these other things, lorazepam, which is I think basically just Xanax, and mixing them with alcohol and stuff like that. And then eventually weed, which was a harder one to kick because it's not necessarily as dangerous as the other ones, but certainly can have some negative effects on you. So escapism was very, very close to the way that I would handle things, right? And escapism, you know, when you think about it, it's something that really that really does that really sort of forces you to deviate, right? It's a deviation from a certain path, and escapism really does force you to almost have to make this unbelievable choice in a moment that almost always goes in favor of the different route than what you're currently experiencing, right? And escapism, to me, metaphorically, I'll put it to you like this: whatever it is that you're currently trying to escape from, and almost always it's pain, okay? And pain is just a little bit of a level up from fear, right? But fear is always at the bottom of something, okay? Because it's pain isn't so bad itself, other than that there's this fear around what it means to experience that, or what's on the other side, or what would happen if you were to work through this, or is your pain actually trying to say something about you, and it's becomes very scary to try and face all those things, right? So to me, escapism is always so. Let's just say you're heading down a road, right? It's just the main road, and it's starting to get kind of foggy, right? There's you know, you were heading down there just fine, but the weather started to change. Things, the fog started to come in, it got a little bit dark, got a little bit scary, and now you're not really certain about the road ahead of you, right? So now you're kind of going a little bit. You're trying to go slow. You're not trying to go all the way, and then as you sort of slow down and you're getting scared to keep going, you notice that there's an exit. And the exit, of course, is the choice. And the exit is just to some other kind of place, right? So it's like another place that doesn't have all this fog. And you know that you're supposed to go down the main road, but this exit isn't as scary. So you go down the exit, you find out this, you know, little town. It's got all the things that you need. It's nice. It's you know, it's everything's lit up. It's, you know, there's people, there's the alcohol, the bars, the drugs, everything you need in this little place. And so the food, the woman, it doesn't matter. Escapism doesn't have to be just drugs, of course. It could be, you know, people escape through work, things like that, right? Escape into people, but whatever it is, there's this avenue, and you take it, this exit. You take that exit, and you go down it. You stay in the town. You try to thrive there. You try to exist there, and even though you know you should go back, it's really, really hard to do so. And even when you do go back to that main road, you link back up with the main highway, you find that it's still just as scary, still just as foggy, still just as dark, still just as confusing. So even though you might drive on that main road a little bit more, maybe a mile or two, you go back to another exit, go back to another town. You keep going to another exit instead of just going the main way. It's essentially the equivalent of going on a road trip all the way to, you know, Cincinnati, unless you live in Cincinnati, in which case it's not much of a road trip. But you know, you live in Florida and you're going to Cincinnati. Well then, and you just keep taking exits and exits and exits. It would take you like days and days and days to get there. You know, maybe a week if you keep screwing around, but it could take you only about 3 or 4 if you really less than that. I think maybe 2 or 3 if you're just doing like a straight um, shot. I don't think it would even take that long, to be honest. But the point is, you could get to a location pretty quickly if you didn't, you know, keep exiting, right? If you just focused on the main road, and that's the issue, right? And what happens with this escapism, and this is what people don't realize, is that they think that escapism is the choice to go on that exit, that is the escape, that's the problem. But that isn't the problem with escapism. Why that isn't why you choose to go down that avenue. Because people act, especially people that never dealt with escapism, and even our own guilt around escapism, we never understand that it isn't the exit, the choice to look this way and go, oh, am I gonna, you know, like that's not really the problem. Because if you're going through something that's difficult and there's an option to feel something that isn't this, why the fuck wouldn't you experience that? I don't understand. You know, like, why wouldn't you escape? It's perfectly natural. Humans can only handle so much. Doesn't matter if you're spiritually awakened, doesn't matter if you're spiritual, doesn't matter if you have a connection to something esoteric or ethereal. You're still human. You still have the human experience. This is still your body. You still got the limitations. There's still things that exist that will bother you. Okay, there's still going to be pain. There's still going to be things that are threatening. It's not going to be comfortable every minute of your existence here. And so it's perfectly normal to have a choice between two things, one that's a better feeling and the other that isn't, and then take the feeling that takes you away from the main road to go experience some sort of drug-induced bliss, or to escape through work, or to take you away from the pain, whatever. It's better than experiencing the pain, right? That's like that option. That's what happens. But that isn't the problem with escapism, um, because it's really, when you get to that choice, when you get to that road, when you get to that avenue, you have no choice at that point. You have no choice. Okay, like, it doesn't matter how smart I always thought I was, or how I always thought that I should do better, or how I always thought, you know, it's all about willpower and perseverance. But then I would get to that road, and I would get to that choice, that exit, and I would always take the exit. Always. And even the times that I didn't, I would take it again at some point in the future. So it didn't matter how powerful I thought I was, how spiritual I was, how awakened I was, and you know how great I'm smart and intelligent and nice and kind. And it didn't matter how many articles I read, how many things I knew about escapism. It didn't matter. I would always take the path that led away from the pain, that was away from the main road. Even though I needed to go the main road to get to where I was going, I would avoid it in favor of something else. But I had no choice. I did the best that I could. And that's what a lot of people do when they're escaping, is that they really force themselves to have no choice. Now, obviously, you can certainly argue that it's always a choice, like to have the strength, to have the courage, to have the inner empowerment to say no to things. And that's true. That does exist within each individual person. That's what I spend my whole time on YouTube trying to get people to understand. However, when you get to that point, when the pain has built up and you escape into something, whatever that may be, the individual gives themselves no choice. The individual has put themselves into an ultimatum, and ultimatums often never work, right? I don't know if you've ever used an ultimatum in your life, again, for somebody, you know, do this, or I'm leaving, do this or that. The person almost always never does the thing that you want them to. So essentially, it doesn't work like that for yourself either. Giving yourself an ultimatum, essentially, like, you know, feel all this shit right now or escape into this thing. You know, like, if you don't do this good pathway, then you know, then you suck or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's so much pressure that builds up internally that the person automatically will always go towards the escape. Escapism is that kind of no choice mentality. It's an ultimatum that just at some point comes up into the individual's existence and experience, and then of course naturally they go into the direction they know they're not supposed to, and that leads to guilt and shame, and the guilt and shame keeps them stuck there even longer. And if they don't stay there, then they come back to the main road and then go back again, and then the guilt and shame still builds. So it's a cycle. It perpetuates itself on and on and on and on, and everybody will tell themselves the same thing: I'm better than this, I'm smarter than this, and yet they'll still have the same struggles, the same type of things, the same type of avoidance around pain, right? And again, doesn't have to be drugs, cell phone, TV, Netflix, people, sex, alcohol, freaking relationships, work, hobbies. There's tons of things that people will escape. People will escape into spirituality. They'll just use the whole experience as their identity, and they'll just keep on escaping into it, rather than just existing as themselves. So all of these little things, whatever they may be for you, they exist as escapism. And at the time, in the moment, they are really an ultimatum, which leaves the individual almost no choice. And it takes a very, very special kind of person over a long period of struggle and pain to really even fundamentally say no to that choice. And even harder for that individual to continually say no. And that often means that there has been a buildup of something that gets to that point of them finally saying no. But what I'm here to now get into for the second part of the video is how to heal that, right? How to actually heal the escaping. Now that we've sort of talked about what it is, what it leads to, how it kind of formulates within an individual's life, how to heal it is to recognize that it is not the choice. It is not the exit that causes the escapism. It isn't, I better smoke this weed or feel this pain, because almost always you're going to choose to smoke the weed. It's the buildup. What happens is that when people have a tendency to escape, like myself, there is almost always a buildup. Maybe you haven't been aware of it, maybe you're not conscious of it, but if you struggle with escapism in whatever form it may be for you, pay attention to what happens the days leading up to that, or the weeks leading up to that, or even the hours and the minutes leading up to that. Almost always there's a buildup of something building and rising within you in your daily life that you're not either aware of, or that you're not taking care of, or that you're forgetting about, but it's building up. And so it keeps building and it keeps building, and then when you get to the inevitable choice, when you get to that exit on the road, you're almost always going to take it because it's been building up. You don't have the courage or the strength to continue on the main road because the main road looks extra scary because something has been building up, and what has been building up is almost always fear. Now, it could be certain levels of fear, it could be stress, could be pain, but it all comes down to fear, right? Because stress is, you're stressed about money. So you're not really noticing it, but you're spending a lot of time trying to be busy, trying to hustle, trying to do this, trying to do that, trying to fill your life with things to sort of validate the existence of you trying to get money, trying to get things, always trying to do. And that mentality builds a lot of stress, and it has a lot to do with self-worth issues, and it has a lot to do around money in this particular example. And I'm using this straight out of my own life. And what happens is that without even realizing it, you and me will have built up all of this anxiety and stress, which really comes down to the fear around not having money or not having enough, or feeling like you're not enough without having to validate it by doing a bunch of shit, and then you escape. So this is what always happened to me. That's like my number one reason why I escape, and not just specifically because of money, but because something builds up. So another example would be pain. Okay, so let's say I'm escaping from pain. Let's say you're escaping from pain. The buildup over the past, let's say 3 days before I choose to escape into something will have been a lot of sad feelings. Things might be happening that I don't process, I don't think about. I'm not taking the time, I'm not journaling, I'm not really relaxing. There's just this pain, and I don't want to deal with it, so I don't talk about it with myself. I don't really allow myself to sort of process it. I don't sit still. And then maybe you couple that with some poor diet choices, you couple that with maybe an argument or a bad day, or maybe you just in a funky mood because somebody said something to you. But for whatever reason, there's this buildup of all these little things, and it could 3 to 4 days, and then something really bad, like an actual something that really would cause you pain, something like one of those days, or that dark night of the soul energy, or something, or just a day where you truly feel really depressed. And because the buildup of the days before, naturally you go, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with this shit, and you escape into whatever it is that your thing is. And the fear, again, it comes back to fear, because the pain is trapped fear, it's trapped sadness, it's things trapped inside of you, always from childhood, something deep within you, right? And so not being able to process that in a healthy way, and that's why people escape. That's how to heal it. It isn't, you don't force yourself to make a better choice, because almost always you're going to fail. You can't get by on pure willpower alone. This isn't, you're not a fucking anime character. You can't just like be the hero every day. That doesn't exist. You have to, like, literally, you have to give yourself like an element of patience and discipline, and like compassion, like to give yourself like the time every day to take care of your 24 hours, right? Because this is truly how you heal something, is that rather than get to the point where you feel like you have to make a choice, take care of your day, right? 24 hours in a day, take care of your 24 hours. So rather than wait and wait and wait and wait, and then the inevitable choice comes, do what you need to do within the present moment, because escapism is just a buildup of things that you haven't been dealing with. So if you're escaping every day, if you're drinking every day, if you're on the cell phone, social media too much, if you're eating food way too much, smoking too much weed, doing drugs, whatever it is, you're into work too much, you need to take a step back and find out where it is fundamentally that you're feeling the anxiety, that you're feeling the stress, you're feeling the pain. Like, where is that, and what could you possibly do to keep that from building up? Could you go for a walk? And the thing is you don't want to wait until the escapism, until that moment, until that choice. You don't want to wait until that choice, because almost always, again, you're gonna go down the avenue of the escape, because again, why wouldn't you? It's so much better than feeling it, right? So it just makes sense naturally, like as a human, right? And I'm not saying like it feels so good that it's worth doing. Obviously it isn't, because if it was, everybody would just be doing it all the time if it didn't cause any sort of pain, right? Because it just suppresses things, which makes it worse. Okay, so the attitude to have there is to take care of yourself within your day. You can't handle tomorrow, okay? You can't handle 2 days from now. You can't handle a week from now, because they don't exist. Those time frames don't exist. You only have this moment, and it's what you are is like this blip. You're this blip moving through time, or rather, time's moving through you as you move forward in existence. Like every minute that you're alive, time, so to speak, is warping itself around you, because you're the present moment. You're just this continuous blip that's existing and moving forward, seemingly in a linear fashion, but not really. But for the sake of this argument, you're moving through time, and time's moving through you. So this part of time doesn't exist, this part of the camera here, future, and this part, past. None of that shit exists. All that exists is right here. That's it. You can handle that. You have enough energy, enough strength, enough intelligence, enough emotional intelligence, enough awareness, enough spiritual strength, and enough analytical ability to handle this moment. You have that power. You have the power to handle 24 hours in a day. I promise you, you can do that. But you might not be able to handle tomorrow, especially if you're in a part of your life where tomorrow is very confusing and scary. And for a lot of people, it is right now, because you might not have a job, or you might be healing from a heartbreak, or you might never know you're going to find love again, or somebody that you love is sick, or you just don't know when things are going to open up again. Maybe you're looking for your friends, soul tribe. You just don't know what the hell's going to happen. And so being worried about the future just causes things to build up. So if you really want to heal things, if you really want to heal this tendency to escape, you have to give yourself 24 hours. You have to give yourself an actual amount of time to deal with life. So just give yourself today. Always think about when you wake up in the morning, today is the only thing I have. Let me do what I can with that, and do what feels naturally right. Don't force yourself to keep going and going and going. Give yourself some allowance of patience to go through your day, because some days you're going to feel like, okay, well, you know what, I should do this, I only have today, let me get as much as I can done, and you will, and you'll have a great day. However, other days you're going to feel like, I don't really feel like doing much, maybe I should wait, maybe I should do nothing, maybe I should just relax. This is what I feel like doing, and those days, do those things. don't do the opposite of what you feel like, because if you do, you're building things up. If you feel like relaxing and your body's just like, dude, I need a break, please let me chill, I need to relax and process things that have happened in the last year or so, like give me some time, do that. But if you don't do that, what happens is that you stress, you force yourself to do things, you go into this kind of different kind of mentality, and that doesn't work, and that's what builds up to the stress, to the escapism, to that choice. Okay, so then how you transmute all of these kinds of things is transmutation is taking one thing, essentially. In my own words, transmutation is taking one thing and turning it into something else. Okay, and that's an odd sort of prospect, because how do you take something like pain and turn it into love, right? Or acceptance or peace? How do you take pain, turn it into peace? How do you take fear and turn it into love, right? Transmutation is something that takes time. It's a process. You start with pain. And if you start doing what I've been talking about for the last 10 minutes in this healing way, what will start to happen is that you will naturally begin to start transmuting, like hands on a clock. It will sort of start going in a certain direction, and it will eventually fulfill its completion. The whole cycle will be complete. Taking pain, for example, again, just pain or fear, taking it and so it's there, right? It's automatically there, but before you escape from it, and usually the escapism comes pretty close to where it's full, maybe about halfway is usually when people start escaping. When the pain builds up, when the fear builds up, when this goes like this, the object is to get it to go full circle, because it will absolutely transmute itself. It will do it on its own. I promise you, your soul has a great way of taking all the shit that you experience and fucking healing it itself. You have that power to do that. I promise you, you do. But you don't if you escape, because when it gets halfway, you run away. So allowing this to do its natural thing, allowing the pain, but instead you're aware of the pain as it's going. You work with the pain. You don't run away from it, because if you're not escaping, and you're aware of the pain, and you're doing things on a daily basis, just taking care of yourself in the ways that I talked about already, you'll notice that as it gets to the halfway point, there is no choice anymore, because you've been taking care of yourself. And then the pain doesn't feel that bad, because you haven't been letting things build up. So then it gets to its natural point, halfway, and it's not that bad. And you go, oh, interesting. Now at this point is really where change starts to begin, because this is where some people, including myself in the past, will feel perfectly okay, and they will still choose to escape. And that's where the beauty is. That's where the change, that's where that happens, is because now you don't feel like escaping, but you did it anyway. And you're just like, why the hell did I do that? I didn't even feel that bad. It wasn't even that bad. Why did I choose to do that? Then you start realizing that there's this like sort of conditioning around escapism, or like needing to do something, like where you're actually hurting yourself for no reason, and you're not a kid anymore. Why do you have to do that? So that's when change begins, and sometimes you will end up doing that. You'll escape when you realize fully you didn't need to, because it didn't feel that bad. And then the next time that you get this far, you won't do it again, or the next couple times, and then it goes full circle. And by the time it gets to this point, full circle again, it will have transmuted into something else. That cycle will be complete, and that's all you need to do. Now, how long that takes is up to the individual. It matters to how long the wound has been going on for, or what type of wound it is. If it's from early childhood, it may take longer than a day. But ultimately, what happens is that if you have pain, or you have fear, you have something you're struggling with that you don't like, that's uncomfortable within you, if you give it time and pay attention to what's happening with it, move with it, be that blip in space and move with that feeling, it will transmute itself in a shorter amount of time than you can imagine, right? Really, truthfully, if you could do what I've been talking about this whole video for even just 30 days, you will realize that it could only take 30 days to transmute something, right? And that's how long it will really take, because there's been periods in my life where I haven't escaped, at least not in the way that I escape. And so those times, the pain just like totally worked itself out. I didn't really have to do much other than just journal, maybe still take care of myself, try to relax, right? Relaxation is truly the key. If you really want to transmute and heal, you need to force yourself to relax. And maybe that's the wrong word. Not force yourself, but you need to give yourself the space to relax, because if something new is trying to come in, if there's a new wave of energy trying to come in to replace the old, you need to relax, you need to let go. So when this is completing itself, almost always right before the completion, it will go smoother and you'll be forced to relax. It's that ability to let go and allow new energies to come in, move through you, and it will heal everything that you need to heal. You don't need to do weird spiritual medicines. You don't need to go to a psychiatrist. You might. I can't say that you shouldn't. But my point is that for a lot of people, you don't need to do a whole bunch of shit in order to feel better about yourself. You just need to relax. You just need to give yourself 24 hours, take all the pressure off of you, and just take care of yourself in a daily way, and don't allow it to build up, because if you get to that choice, you're almost always going to go down the path that you know you shouldn't go down, because it's easier. The object is to make sure that you never get to that point in the first place. Okay, so I hope this video helps. There's so much you could talk about with escapism, so much from my own life. I could go another 25 minutes talking about escapism and the whole ins and outs of even more about why we do it. And obviously we could talk about childhood and really in childhood how it does actually build up, how in childhood we learn how to handle pain, because pain of course is one of those things that in childhood our parents either said there's no such thing, everything always has to feel good, and so they suppress that kind of stuff, or you would tell people something like about pain and they wouldn't listen. So however, whatever sort of way of dealing with pain is your particular sort of way, look at that and own that, because that's how you're going to heal that as well, because it does start in childhood, right? And that's a whole, again, talk another 20 minutes about that, but really it's how you handle your own pain, because we're taught that pain sucks, that it's bad, that it's icky, so we run away from it. And if we didn't have the coping mechanisms as a child to deal with that, then obviously naturally when we get to that choice, we're going to do the thing we shouldn't do. So don't get to that choice. Do what you didn't do as a kid. Do what nobody ever taught you, which is to be open, be vulnerable, be expressive, help yourself, give yourself some space, give yourself your day. Stop thinking in terms of the future. Just allow yourself to give yourself this day. It's easier to let go of the future than it is the past, and that's fine. If you can at least handle and say to yourself, okay, I still feel shitty about the past is still around me, that's okay. But if I remove the future for now, I can allow myself to catch up to myself, catch up to my process, catch up to where I am in this real life. And that will help you solidify your place in this world, and that will allow things to naturally heal. And then you can move forward in a more healthy way and start making more clear goals for yourself, and start maybe thinking about the future a little bit. But for now, if you have these tendencies, if you do escape, give yourself 24 hours. Only think about your life in terms of 24 hours. And even if you can minimize that to the next hour, you can really bring it all the way down to this present moment, right? And everything will be so much easier for you. There'll be less stress, less pain, less anxiety, and you'll be able to deal with everything naturally as it comes along. Trust yourself, trust your strength, trust your ability, and you'll do just fine, okay? Anyway, I hope this video did help. It's something that I have dealt with a lot in my life, but getting better, especially as I take my own advice. Okay, guys, so yeah, I hope this helps. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I appreciate that. And I guess I will see you guys later. All right, guys, have a good one. Appreciate it.